Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan, presenting Tell Me Your Spurs Story. And here with us today, sharing his story, is Lee the Dorset Spurs. How are you keeping?
I'm good. I'm doing good. Thank you. Good to meet you.
Yeah, same to you. And thanks very much for giving up your time and coming on and doing this. It means a lot. And like we were talking off air, you have a lot of older memories, which is what a lot of my followers do want to hear as well. So it's brilliant that you're here to share these memories with us today. So thanks very much. And look, we may as well get straight into it. So look, supporting Tottenham, look, there's a lot of highs, a lot of lows. So it's a full-time job, basically. You know what I mean? Sometimes it can be hard. But what I will say is when the highs are high, they're real high because you don't get too many of them. And for me, I actually got into supporting Tottenham because of my dad. I have a lot of Spurs. I have a lot of family that are Spurs in my family, a lot of family members that support Tottenham. So for me, look, the main reason why I got into supporting Tottenham was because of my dad. I had no other choice. He would have killed me if I supported anybody else. So how did you get into supporting Tottenham?
Well, it's I'm a little bit different from a lot of people because most people have their connection through their family, but not really for me because whilst I'm from living in Dorset currently, I'm actually from Hackney in London.
Oh.
And where I come from in London, there was 3 or 4 teams you could support, right? So you could support Arsenal, you could support West Ham, you could support Tottenham, you could support Orient, you know, those kind of teams that are around there. So my dad was never really into football. My dad was more into boxing. He was a big boxing fan. Yeah. And so he never took me football. It was never on the agenda. And a friend of his had a son and he was going to West Ham. He was a West Ham fan. And he said to me, "Oh, do you want to come along and watch football with me and my boy?" I can't remember what his name is now, too many years ago. And he took me to West Ham. And I must have been about 8 or 9, I guess. And I got the bug for football, you know, just football in general. I wasn't really bothered about the team or anything like that. But that was the first time I actually went to football. And at the time, I was about 11. I went to senior school. And back then, it was a lot of questions about what team you support and all the rest of it. And a friend of mine, who I'm still friends with now, and I still see him over Tottenham, said to me, "I support Tottenham." He said, "Why don't you come to Tottenham with me and some of my pals?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, you know, why not? You know, I don't really support anybody, so I might as well come over."
Yeah.
And Leslie Knight, his name is, and he said to me, "You know, we meet up with a few pals. We'll go over there early. We'll have some breakfast in Jack's Cafe and all the rest of it." And it became a bit of a whole day thing. And back then it was all terracing. I went in. I think it was £1 to get in at the time. And we went in and we went to an area of the shelf side called the Cage, which is in the top. As you're looking at the shelf side, it's the top right hand corner. And at the time, this is going back to 1978, so a real long time ago. I was 11, and we went into the Cage, and it was full of skinheads and punk rockers and all the rest of it. And I was only a little kid then, and that was it. That was it. I was hooked. The atmosphere, the camaraderie, and the madness of it all was just amazing to me. As an 11-year-old boy, I just fell in love with it. And so for me, Leslie Knight will always be the guy who got me into Tottenham, and it's his fault that I'm stuck with it ever since. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Yeah, look, 100%. I'll blame me out, lad. As soon as my grey hairs start appearing early, especially the one before what they should, I'm going to blame the owl lad because, look, it is a roller coaster. But you know what? That's a fantastic way to kick off the show. That's a great story. So thanks very much for sharing us. Look, one of my earliest Spurs memories, I've got a few, like you said, like my old lad, he used to bring me up to the lane. Now I'm talking in the 90s. Used to bring me up to the lane, and I used to absolutely love it. Like you said, you know, it's the camaraderie, it's the noise, it's the football bug. It takes over. And for me, look, one of my actually early Spurs memories is I got a kit for. I think I just got a kit because I'm so good, to be honest with you. It was a navy jersey with the Hewlett Packard sponsorship on it, with the cream shorts and the socks to go with it. And that's one of my earliest Spurs memories. What's your earliest Spurs memory? What's one that you will always remember as one of your earliest memories?
Oh wow, there's so many memories that I've got of football and what it's kind of meant to me over the years. But I guess one of the biggest things that I can remember about football, and it's and it's slightly off track a little bit, so you'll have to forgive me. But back in those days, there was a lot of racism around football, and a lot of problems, especially around teams like Chelsea or West Ham. They had a real problem with it, and I still have got a friend. I've got a friend called Ricky Price, and Ricky is a Jamaican background, and we went to school together. And I'd actually bumped into him at football. I didn't know that he was a Tottenham fan as well, and I actually saw him sticking out in the Park Lane from up in the cage, and we become firm friends. And we went to football all the time together. From that sort of time, and there was a lot of racism around football, but I can really remember vividly that Tottenham was one of the teams that was really anti National Front, which was like the BNP of the time, and a lot of the older lads, the big guys and the faces around at the time, they actually set upon the National Front when they come down to Tottenham to try to recruit some of the kids and stuff, and it really sticks with me because it was such a pivotal moment for me growing up to see that, to see what it meant. It was more about being a Spurs fan, being together and looking out for each other than it was to have those people coming in and trying to divide you. And that kind of what solidified that feeling of camaraderie. I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk all over the years about the use of the Yid word and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that was all around that time, fighting off that behaviour and stuff. So that kind of sticks with me. One of my earliest memories, and I know that's not technically the football as such, but it was a real big moment for me as a football fan growing up to see that kind of camaraderie coming out. You know,
I have to say it's probably one of the best earliest memories I've had on this show yet. To be honest with you, it's an absolute history lesson for any newer Spurs fans out there of a newer generation. There's a bit of history for you. That's an absolute brilliant memory. I do appreciate you sharing that with us. It's a great history lesson for some of the newer fans who maybe doesn't understand the use of the word yin and things like that from back then and stuff. So absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. So look, for me, I made no secret about it. For me, the moment I fell in love with Tottenham, I was actually at a Tottenham Wimbledon game. It was at White Hart Lane, but the old lad's friend who came over to England with him back at that time. Because I don't know whether you know or not, I actually used to live in England when I was younger. Okay. I used to live in Brighton. So look, for me, like we ended up going to the game and we were in the away end with the Wimbledon fans because it's the only tickets we could get for the match that day. And of course, they sat there telling me, don't celebrate if Spurs scored. But sure, I was only young. I didn't understand. Of course, I celebrated. And the absolute abuse I got, I'm a kid standing in front of full-grown men hurling down pelters at me. And I absolutely loved it. I completely loved it. And for that moment, and the fact that I could see the hatred towards Tottenham, not only me, but Tottenham, I loved it. And for me, that's exactly when I fell in love with Tottenham. I just love the fact that everyone hates Tottenham. But what was the reason that you fell in love with this great club?
I guess just some really great memories. I can remember because it was when I first started going was 1978, and it was just after the Argentina World Cup, and we had these two massive superstars come over. Ozzy Ardiles, Ricky Villa. I mean, there was no real bigger names in football around that time, and it was a massive deal having these foreign players come over because it just didn't happen. Not like today where every player is a foreign player. And for me, it was a great feeling, and seeing all the ticker tape coming up which was what they did in the Argentina World Cup. They did that at White Hart Lane a fair bit, and it was just magical seeing that as a kid. Just kind of seeing all that stuff and being able to see these stars that come from somewhere so far away that you couldn't imagine it, And of course, at the time when I was going, in the early days, we had quite a fair bit of success, so it was easy to stay. It was easy to stay in love because at that time we were one of the teams that were flying high, and so it meant a lot, and kind of seeing that bit of success kind of had you hooked, And like I say, a lot of it was about the friends and everything else. Because for me, even now, I mean, it's not just about the 90 minutes. It's about the whole day. It's about meeting up with your mates. It's about the sing along before the game. It's the talking about the game after the game and all those kind of things. You know that means more for me. It's like a family thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk. You know, most of my friends that I talk to, you know, outside of work and stuff like that, are all Tottenham fans. It's all football related and stuff like that. You know, you can't get away from it, can you? So. You know, for me, it's remained part of my life, all my life, even during the times when I wasn't able to go. You know, bringing up a family, and that's expensive, and I moved out of London, so you know,
a lot of people
that
feel
made
that
difficult.
pain.
Yeah, so but it stays with you, even during those times when Sky Sports took over and all the rest of it, and it was more difficult to see the games than it had been. You know. Even then, you know, craving to see football and be part of it was still there. You know, it never leaves you.
Yeah, 100%. To be honest with you, when Sky Sports came in, look, I actually felt that struggle because in Ireland it was very hard to get Sky Sports over here. So, you know, I spent many days flicking through the teletext every 5 minutes to see if there's any score updates and stuff like that. You know, so I feel the pain when Sky Sports come in. But look, this is a question I'm actually really excited to ask you because, you know, we're talking from a broad spectrum here. So, like, you know, for me, there's been a lot of famous players that pulled on this jersey. Like, even talk about Ricky Villa, Ozzy Diaz. You have Hoddle, Waddle, Steve Perryman. You know, you have you have Paul Gascoigne. You have Modric. You have Robbie Keane. You have Harry Kane and Son up to now. But for me, who was your favourite ever player to pull on that famous white jersey?
There's only ever going to be one, to be honest with you. I mean, there's been some fantastic players, and you've named most of them there. But for me, it'll always be and always have to be Glenn Hoddle. For me, you know, in the area that I grew up, being able to say that we watched him play week in, week out, and you know, is just. You know, something magical to be able to say. I mean, you think about Man United fans being able to talk about George Best or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, for me, that's a similar situation. You know, Glenn Hoddle is one of the best footballers that's ever been around. So, you know, for me, it was never going to be in any doubt. It'd have to be Glenn Hoddle. Have to be.
And what was it about Glenn Hoddle that stood out for you? Look, I know a lot about Glenn Hoddle. My father has me well schooled on him, believe me. But for other fans that, they'll be aware of his name, but might not have, like, you know, that due to their age haven't seen him play. Tell him a bit about Glenn Hoddle and why he's so remembered fondly around our club.
You know, for me, I guess Glenn Hoddle was a player beyond his time. He was a player that played on some of the worst pitches around, in some of the worst weather, with some of the most vicious defenders that were ever around, right? And this guy just glided around the pitch, effortless. I mean, he just oozed class the whole time.
Yeah.
Every time he touched the ball, you know, something special was going to happen. And he was just so far ahead of his time, and I guess that's the same for a lot of those players around that era. You know, you look at players like Pele or George Best or even Maradona and people like that. You know, these guys, if they was in their prime now, wow, what would they be like? You know, because you know how they played in the situations they played in was so much different from how the pitches and stuff are today, you know. So to be able to do what they did at that time is unbelievable. And Glenn Hoddle was one of the best at it. I mean, the guy was just. I mean, he didn't run across the pitch; he just glided across the pitch, you know. And he could do everything. He could pass, he could shoot, he could score, he could, you know. I mean, he could do everything, you know. And for me, he's just going to stand out as one of the greatest. And I don't care what team you support, you know. You know, most people would be able to say, Glenn Hoddle, one of the greatest English players around.
Yeah, 100%. Look, my old lad has told me plenty about him, so thanks for telling some of the younger generation a little bit there about Glenn. Look, and as well, we've had a lot of famous managers in the dugout over the years. You know, you had Keith Birkinshaw, you had Terry Venables, who of course won us a cup, the League Cup. You have Martin Jol, who for me kind of was the manager that kind of brought us into this new era of football, really. And then you have Harry Redknapp, you have Mauricio Pochettino, of course, Champions League final, done so well with the squad. And then you have the great one now, the special one, Jose. But for you, who's your favourite ever manager to sit in that dugout?
Well, again, if you base it on success, it has to be the general. Has to be Keith Birkinshaw. You know, the guy. You know, he's our most successful manager after Bill Nick. You know, in the modern times, so you can't dismiss what he did with the players, and you know, to be able to bring in players like Ricky Villar and Ozzy Ardiles and Crooks and Archibald. Don't forget those two guys. You know, so for me, he has to be up there as one of the greatest. But again, going back, I think you're right. I think Martin Jol started a lot for us. We've had a lot of false dawns over the years. I think, you know, Terry Venables, I can remember when Terry Venables came in, you know, the buzz around that and the fact that, you know, he was a hero coming back and all the rest of it. It was always going to be a match made in heaven, and unfortunately it turned sour. So I don't think we really saw the best from Terry that we would have really wanted. And then we went through a lot of mediocrity, and then obviously Martin Jol coming along at the right time. I think had he been given a bit more time, maybe things could have been a bit better for him. I don't know, but you know, and again, you then got to talk about Pochettino. I think he's the guy who's kind of built that hope and built the club back up and built the reputation of the club with his class. For me, I think he's just a really classy manager, and I'm just really gutted for him that he didn't win anything, because that would have been a great legacy. Because, you know, he did so much for the club. To come away with nothing is a real shame. You know, it's a real shame, because I don't think if we hadn't have had Pochettino, then I don't think Jose Mourinho would have ever come to Tottenham. I think that's the legacy that he leaves behind. So, you know, but we've had some mediocrity in there as well. You know, the Tim Sherwood days and the George Graham days, even though George did win us a trophy. Villas Boas, you know, I mean, there's been some crap on there. Christian Gross is another one that we like try to forget. You know, but for me, to answer your question, has to be Birkinshaw, purely on the success that he had, and I don't think that can be underrated. What he did with that team. So.
Yeah, 100% agree with. Just to touch on just a couple of things there. Martin Jol, look, we all know that it came out at half time in the Europa League game that you know, he was getting the sack after the game. Do you think he was harshly treated? Do you think we should have given him more time?
Yeah, absolutely. I was shocked, you know, to hear that he was going. I felt that we was going in the right direction under him. I'm not looking back on it now. To be fair, I'm not sure he was going to take us to the next level. To be honest with you, But you just never know, do you? You just never know. And I think you know, a lot has to go to the board about, you know, what they were going to spend, were they going to compete, and all the rest of it. And that's a big debate, a massive debate, obviously. So I don't think you can always just blame the manager. You have to look at the investment in the squad and the capability and stuff and what they wanted, you know. So I'm not sure. I think, yes, he was harshly treated, but looking back, do I think he would have took us to the next level? Probably not. To be fair, you just never know. You just never know, do you? History won't tell us. So,
100%. And just on Pochettino as well, I'd be interested to hear this. Do you think we should have given Pochettino the second rebuild, or do you think it was time and that we done the right thing to get in Jose?
See, now for me, I didn't want Pochettino to be sacked. Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted him to have more time. But I think that the fact that Mourinho was available is what determined the fact that Pochettino got the sack. I think if Mourinho hadn't been available, I don't think Pochettino would have got the sack. That's just my view, because I think Daniel Levy has always wanted Mourinho to be the manager.
Yeah.
But I've got to be honest with you, looking at the end of Pochettino's time at Tottenham, there was a lot of times where I was kind of going, really? What's this decision? You know, some kind of strange stuff and some strange things that he'd said and all the rest of it. So I was like, okay, maybe it was the right thing. I don't know. Maybe it was the right thing, and time will tell us. But for me personally, at the time, I wanted him to continue. I wanted him to see what he could do with some real money coming in, some real spend. Would we have pushed on under Pochettino, would he have finally got a trophy.
And do you think the reason why Levy kind of got rid of Pochettino in the end was because maybe he didn't trust him with that money to kind of spend for the second rebuild?
No, I honestly don't. I honestly think that it was all about Mourinho, because Daniel Levy wanted Mourinho to be the Tottenham manager even before he went to Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's made any secret of that. And I think that it was all driven by the fact that Mourinho was available. I think if Mourinho was available and showing interest, then Daniel Levy was always going to go for him. And I don't think it would have mattered who the manager was. I think that would have been what was going to happen. So, I mean, I might be totally wrong. I mean, what do I know? I'm not in.
That's the great thing about the shoot. We all have different opinions on it. You know what I mean? Like for me,
exactly.
To be honest with you, my opinion would be that I don't think Daniel Levy trusted a lot of Poch's signings. Like you look at the likes of Lucas Moura, and as well with Pochettino, a lot of these new signings tended to take at least 6 months before they tended to kind of get a run in the first team as well. Then you look at the likes of Kieran Trippier, Ben Davies, Michel Vorm, first time when he came in, and players like that. But so for me, I kind of think that it was maybe that he didn't trust some of Pochettino's signings, especially because they were players that he came to rely on an awful lot. Do you know what I mean? But look, we all have our own different opinion on it. Like you could very well be correct that it's just the fact that Mourinho became available. We all know Daniel Levy was a huge fan of Mourinho, and just now was the time to go and get him when he also needs to rebuild his career as well. So now it was the time for him to go and get Tottenham. And I also agree with you. Without Poch, we wouldn't have Mourinho today. That's 100% facts. You're 100% there. Look, moving on to the next question. So, look, there's a lot of games. We've been involved in a lot of crackers over the years. Do you know what I mean? You've cup finals, UEFA Cup finals. Then you have like the game out in Ajax is one that'll always go down in memory for me purely because it gave me that moment to be able to sit there with my old lad who's been a lifelong Spurs fan and watch a Champions League final with him because look, he remembers them days when we were lifted European Cups. Do you know what I mean? He remembers back then. I don't. I haven't had the privilege. I'm actually quite jealous of the older generation because they've got to see Spurs be very successful. Do you know what I mean? But for me, like the Ajax game is one that'll always stand out for me because I was able to watch Champions League. And as well, it's the way it happened. It was the last kick of the game, basically. Do you know what I mean? It was do or die, and it just went our way. The luck was with us. What game will you always remember? What game always sticks out in your memory? What game do you always sit there and think, Jesus, that was some game?
Again, I'll go back because I was going to talk about that one because I mean that for me again that was in my modern memory that is the one that really sticks out. But I guess I'll always have to hark back to, and I've spoken about this before with different people, is the 81 replay for obvious reasons. But one of the reasons for me that it was really sticks in my memory is that I didn't have a ticket for the game. And I went there with a few mates, went to the old Wembley and managed to acquire a ticket via a ticket tout who was he was persuaded to give away a few tickets to some of the lads, and I was lucky enough to be a recipient of one of those tickets, and I never thought I was going to get in, so I was quite lucky to be able to get into that game, and I'm watching it all the way through, and just the moment with Ricky Villa where he scored the goal was like slow motion. Like when you're watching it was like slow motion, and I was in the end where the goal went in, and watching it come in like that, it was unbelievable. Couldn't believe that it had happened, and for me, it was the first thing I'd ever seen Tottenham win, and it felt like we were always going to win, right? We were always going to win something, and so for me, it was like that big moment where it was the first time that we'd lifted silverware. And back then, believe it or not, the FA Cup was a big deal. Not like it is today. It was a big deal. It was on the TV all day. You had It's a Knockout, all done in the team colours and stuff like that. It was like literally all day it was on. And so it was a really, really big thing to be able to win the FA Cup. and it was absolutely fantastic. And to see Steve Perryman lift up the FA Cup like that was a magical moment. I'll never forget it. As long as I live, I'll never forget that moment. And the other thing I'll never forget is the parade down Tottenham High Road, which was another fantastic experience, being amongst all the fans and that, where they went to the town hall and kind of lifted the cup up. I mean, it was just a surreal moment, and one that will stick with me forever. And I was lucky enough to go to the '82 FA Cup as well. I was I saw us win the UEFA Cup. I was at that game. Yeah. So,
oh wow!
But for me,
tell us a little bit about that.
Well, to be honest with you, it's one of those that's just for me, that one's a blur. It was just an unbelievable experience. This has happened 2 years or so after we'd won the FA Cup again. And so it just felt like we was on top of the world, and we was always these trophies were gonna keep coming and keep coming and keep coming.
Yeah.
Really exciting time. I was in the ground with my mates and stuff, and it's just the goalkeeper was an ex Upton House schoolboy, and it's the same school that I went to. Me and some of my pals went to the same school.
Oh, nice.
And he was an ex-pupil of that school, a bit older than us, but ex-pupil of that school. So it was even sweeter seeing him save that penalty for us to win it. So unbelievable. Yeah. So some great memories, and unfortunately we haven't had anything like that ever since. We've been starved. We've been starved lately. Do you know what I mean? But look, it is what it is. I firmly believe under Joseph we will go on to win some trophies again. I do believe that. But look, speaking of that Ricky Villa goal, obviously, look, I wasn't alive when it happened, but I've seen videos of it since. It's one my old lad always talks about as well. What a goal that was! Do you know what I mean? And to be honest with you, there's been so many iconic goals over the years. Like for me, another great goal I can remember, and it's more from my era, would be David Ginola's goal in the FA Cup. I think it was against Barnsley, where he kind of picked up the ball on the left-hand side, just bet half the team and put one home to send us through. You obviously have Lucas Moore's goal against Ajax. That will forever be famous. You have Johnny Woodgate's goal against Chelsea at the 2008 Carabao Cup. Not the greatest of goals, but it's a famous goal that wins you a trophy. Even has the Gascoigne free kick against Arsenal actually in the FA Cup. In the semi-final, what a free kick that was! But what's the most iconic goal you've ever seen? Well, I mean, there's been loads, isn't there? I mean, for me, one of my favourite goals that I love to see going in is the Danny Rose when it comes against the Scum. When it comes out to him and he fires it from 2 miles away. I mean, that's a fantastic goal. I love seeing that one going in. The other one I really, as well, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, the other one I really enjoy seeing is the lob from Dele Alli over the Arsenal keeper. Seeing that one going. I think that's another absolute screamer. I love to see that one.
Do you remember David Bentley's goal against Arsenal?
Yeah, another one. Again, I mean, there's been so many. Like you say, David Ginola's one, a fantastic goal that was. I mean, and then you've got Sonny's one against Burnley, not so long ago, which has to be out there, as one of the great goals. But again, being the old guy, Ricky Villa's one is always going to be iconic for me because it was the one to see the first trophy as a young kid watching football. For me, it's always going to be one of my favourites because it meant so much. It meant so much to the fans. It meant so much to me personally watching that go in. So that's always going to stick with me. So boring, I know, but it is what it is. No,
look, it's certainly not a boring goal. It was a great goal at the time. Do you know the way he picked up the ball? He dazzled past a couple of the City defence and smashed it home. It's certainly not a boring goal. Don't worry about that. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of fans are going to love hearing a lot of these older stories. It's kind of what I'm after. It's absolutely brilliant. You're absolutely smashing this, I have to say. But look, so moving on to the next question. For me, this club, I've said this a lot of times, the motto for me, basically, to dare is to do. If you dream big enough, you will achieve it. So what does this club mean to you? Is it religion, a way of life?
For me, it's family. For me, it's family. Yeah. Most of my pals who I keep listen. well, I go up to White Hart Lane as a season ticket holder now with a group of guys called the South Dorset Spurs, and it's a great supporters club down in. They're up in Weymouth, which is a little bit away from me, but they drive through. They pick me up in the minibus, and we have a great time. We have a great time. We
Plenty
have a
of
great
cars, I'd
laugh
say, on the bus.
Yeah, we have a few beers and we have a laugh and all the rest of it. You know, we go to the Gilpin, we park up at the Gilpin, we go to LT's, which is a fantastic pub. If you've never been in there, LT's top pub, DJ Dell, you'll love it, I promise. For me, it's all about family. You know, from that perspective, and then my new Spurs family. But even now, I still go back. I'll meet up with my mates. Like I said, I mentioned Ricky Price, who's a great friend of mine. We've been friends over 40 years now. You know, and say Les Knight, who got me into it. I often bump into him. We've got another guy called Danny North, who I went to school with. So we all keep in touch. And a lot of the guys that I see are the same guys that I was going football with back in the 80s. You know, so for me, it's more like family. You know, because I say I've got this new group of guys that I go football with who are a great lot, and then I've got all these guys that I meet up with when I'm up there whenever I can. You know, and for me, it's about that camaraderie, it's about that family, being able to connect with them again, and of course meeting new friends. I mean, I've met so many great people. Even when we were exiled in Wembley, met a great group of guys at Wembley that I keep in touch with. Ricky Randall, who you might know from his iconic GIF that goes around. If there's a guy going mental, that's Ricky. You know, he's a great guy. I keep in touch with him, and we meet up for a bit. Him and Dean. So yeah, for me, it's all about family and about that connection and having something in common that we can all kind of moan about, be happy about, cry about, get excited about, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, for me, it's more than just the 90 minutes. It's all about, you know, the whole thing rolled into one. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. Because look, I'm living in Ireland right now. I'm from Ireland, and look, it's hard. You know, it's very costly for me to be able to get over regularly. So I tend to take in 1 or 2 games a year, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And every time I go over there in the Mar, whether I go on my own or whether I go with friends or my father, you always find a group of people you can sit down, have a few drinks with, have a laugh with, and talk Tottenham. It's absolutely brilliant. So that family feeling is 100% there. You know, the fact that, you know, someone can just come over from, say, even America, come over on their own. They'll always be accepted. They'll always find a group of people they can sit down and have a few beers with and really enjoy the game. And I think that's one of the main pulls on why you see a lot of families going to Spurs games and that as well. It's absolutely brilliant. But look, now, so you're on YouTube. My old lad watches a lot of your videos. I watch a lot of your videos. We're big fans. How did you get into it, and how do you find it?
How did I get into it? Well, there's a guy, a big YouTuber called Chris Cowling, who he did a lot of videos around when the stadium was being built, and I say I go up with the South Dorset Spurs guys, and they went up to see the stadium being done, and had a walk around. And they bumped into him whilst he was doing a video, and I had a chat with him and everything. And I've had a little bit of a rant on Facebook. I did a Facebook video where I was a bit fed up about people going on about. I think it was to do with the transfer market, because I'm not a big fan of the old transfer process, deadline day, all that. And I've done a little bit of a rant. And so when we went up to Wembley, the guys put me forward to do a video with Chris, and Chris said to me, "Oh, you know, it went down really well, and people were quite interested in it, and all the rest of it." He said, "You should do your own channel on that." And I was like, "Who's really going to want to listen to an old fart like me, really?" You know. But I had a go, you know, and I've put a few videos out there, and I got a little bit of a decent response, you know, and people liked some of the stuff that I was saying and everything. So I've just kept doing it, you know, like not to the level of people like Chris or We Are Tottenham TV, Georgia Kiddicks, all those kind of guys. But you know, I've got regular people that watch my videos, you know, so thanks to those guys, they keep me doing it, you know, because without them, I wouldn't bother, because you just think, well, you're talking to yourself.
Well,
but
you do need the support, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I have good interaction with a lot of the people. You know, I always try to reply to people when they comment on, make a comment and
Yeah,
stuff, whether it's good or bad. I still try to, because this is all about opinions, right? So
yeah,
I
that's
might
what's
say
on
one
about.
thing, they say something else, they might disagree with me or whatever, but that's up to them, you know, and I've got no problem with that, you know, I've got no problem
Yeah,
with people disagreeing with what I say. And so that kind of keeps me interested and stuff, you know. I mean, it's only a small channel, it's not a professional one. I ain't got a fancy intro like all you guys or any of that kind of stuff. But I just, when I'm on my way home from work and I'm in the car, I hit the button and have a rant about football, and hopefully some people agree with me, some people like what I say, and that's it. So yeah, I'll keep doing it while people keep watching and see what happens.
yeah. Look, for me, I actually think it's a fantastic video. Do you know what I mean? Like you said, you drive around in the car. You have a busy household with kids and everything else. You have a lot. You know what I mean? So a lot of people will end up loving the fact that you're so dedicated. You go into the car, you drive around, turn your camera on, and have your say. And to be honest with you, I think it's a brilliant channel. And I think anyone that's
Thank
here
you.
watching your story today, I think they should get over and definitely hit that subscribe button and show Lee your support, because it's a great channel. He puts his opinions out there. So why not get your comments in and let him know what you think of his opinions? At the end of the day, I think you will end up growing and growing better, bigger and better. And I will also have your link to your channel in the description below. So anybody that is watching and has enjoyed his stories here today, make sure you do get under. Make sure you click that link and get over and smash that subscribe button and show him your support. And to be honest with you, I like listening to your points. I think you're a very underrated channel. I really do. I think you should have a lot more subscribers than what you do have. But look, how do you find it? Like what's your aim with the YouTube now? Are you just going to keep going the way you're going, or you plan on ramping it up a little bit, or what's the aim?
I don't think there's ever an aim. I've never really had an aim for it. It's not like I'm trying to make money out of it or try and make it make myself famous or anything like that. I like for me, it's about the interaction and like say the family thing. So like I keep going on about it. I guess I like that. I like to chat about it. I like talking about football. I like having an opinion. And so for me, it's just to see how it goes. I mean, if people stop watching, then I'll stop doing it. So that's up to them really. If they stop watching, then I'll stop doing it. If people keep watching, then I'll keep doing it. You know, I'm hoping to put some more video once we can actually get back to the ground. I think, you know, this year's taught us a lot about, you know, seizing the moments and enjoying the moments and stuff like that. You know, I'm just keen to get back to games and that, so I can share some good times and meet up with pals again and maybe, you know, churn out a few decent videos with some good, you know, good video and stuff in it, you know, of actually being in the ground and stuff, to make it feel a little bit more, you know, real. But yeah, you know, like I say, there's no real aim for the channel. If people like it, then that's great. If they don't, then I'm sure they'll let me know by stopping. So we'll just see what happens, I guess.
Well, look, I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon. You definitely have my attention, and you captivated me today with some of the stories. And I honestly think your channel will go strength to strength. And I definitely love to have you on my channel again for a couple of debates, you know, so you can get your opinions across and stuff like that. So I don't think that's going to be a problem with you. But look, we're going to move on to the last question. And for me, it's my most favorite question I like to finish on. What's your most cherished Spurs memory?
Most cherished Spurs memory. I guess. Okay. I guess my most cherished memory is being able to take my son to White Hart Lane, to the old White Hart Lane, and again to the new White Hart Lane. So that would be one of my most cherished memories, being able to share it with my eldest son.
Must make you proud.
Yeah, I mean, my other son's not into football, but my eldest son, he's like me, he loves Spurs, you know, and to be able to take him up there and to meet up with my pals and to actually experience the old White Hart Lane and then experience the new White Hart Lane, for me is probably some special memories, being able to share that with him and see the team live together. That for me will always be special. And I guess the other memory that I'll never forget is the opening game at the new stadium. I think, you know, to be able to say that I was there when they opened the stadium against Palace and stuff. It was a great feeling. It was a great night, and one of those memories that will stick with me. you know, along with a lot of the others. So yeah, I guess those would be my my standout memories, my most cherished times.
Yeah. Two fantastic memories. And look, I'd say your son definitely cherishes the memories as well of being able to go with you. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure he cherishes them just as much, if not more, than what you do. So, you know, fair play to you for getting your son involved and getting him supporting Tottenham as well. But look, everyone, the Harris Army out there, I hope you enjoyed watching this week's show. You know what I mean? If you could hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and show me your support, it'd be absolutely excellent. We're on the big push for 1K. So make it happen out there. And look, thanks very much. A big thank you to you, Lee. Lee from the Dorset Spur. Make sure you get over and check out his channel. You won't be disappointed. But Lee, a big thanks for coming on and thanks for sharing these memories.
No problem. It's been great to come on. Good luck with your channel. I hope it grows and you get what you need from it.
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks very much. Like you, I'm in it for the love of it. So thank you very much. And look, thank you to the Harris Army and anyone else out there for tuning in. In Jose we trust. Come on, you Spurs.
Up the Spurs.